Hello, everybody, and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. We're very pleased to welcome as a guest this week he's new, police chief. He's Brian Peters, and he's here with us to talk about a number of topics, and we're very pleased to have him. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob.
Let's start with the anniversary. When we talked earlier, you said that believe it or not, the Portsmouth Fire Department is coming up on 100 years.
Correct. Yeah, the police department's coming up on a 100th year anniversary. So, May 9th, 1921 was when our first chief was sworn in, and believe it or not, next year, May 9th, 2021, 100 years has already come up. So, it's kind of a great and historic time at the Portsmouth Police Department, and we just started. We had our first meeting last week. So. We had a meeting with the police department. We're going to try to get some citizen involvement. But I think it's a great opportunity for the community and the police department to come together to celebrate and
definitely
this monumental occasion.
Always good to celebrate these marks in the history of a town or department or whatever. Yeah, give us a sense of what the department looks like. How many people are in, and what kind of divisions do you have, and so forth.
Sure. So at our full complement, we should have 38 police officers. So that includes up to myself. We should have 21 patrol officers, and it's made up of detectives. We have 3 detectives, and then there's 5 sergeants, 5 lieutenants, deputy chief, and chief. We also have an animal control officer. We have a Prudence Island, an officer on Prudence Island, a Prudence Island public safety officer that also falls under the police department. So at our full staff, we should have that. This year, we've been kind of short a few. We were down between 6 and 8 at one point this year. We have 3 officers in the academy right now. We have 2 officers that just graduated in the academy, and they're on their field training officer right now.
What does that mean, you have officers in the academy? I always thought that the academy was sort of something you went through, and then when you graduated, you became a policeman, but some of your officers are in the academy.
Correct.
Now?
So the way it works in Rhode Island is a police department has to sponsor the officers. So they're actually employees of the Portsmouth Police Department, and they start usually a week before the academy begins here in Portsmouth. Then they're gone for about 5 months at the police academy, up and doing their training. It's at Camp Fogarty in East Greenwich, and also CCRI in Lincoln. So they'll be there for about 5 months. They'll be gone. Then when they come out of the police academy, they graduate. And then they're officially sworn in as a Portsmouth probationary police officer. They're on probation for a 1-year period. But once they come out, then they go through a 12-week period where they're actually with a seasoned officer that's going to show them the ropes.
Wow, what a training program.
So it is a big training program.
We talked earlier about the work of policemen is much more complicated today, and I could tell by just the training. Would you say 5 months of training?
5 months at the academy. So it's a long process, and
it is
teaching
indeed.
Everything, and there's things are a lot more complicated. Years ago, I know some of the officers when I first got on, it was only a few weeks. It might have only been 8 weeks or so that they were going to the police academy, and over time it just got longer and longer. There's just so much more that's involved being a police officer. The training, as far as the physical training, how to respond to domestic violence situations, how to deal with intoxicated individuals, mental health individuals. There's a lot more entailed these days, making sure that all the officers are aware of Supreme Court decisions. And so this way, when they graduate, they have a good sense of what it takes to be a police officer, that they go out, that they're not violating our citizens' rights, and that they're doing what's expected of them.
I guess all of the new laws and all of the, as you mentioned them, the different segments of our societies, a minority group, a mental health group, violence, and so forth, all call for special kind of responses.
Correct.
And that's, I'm glad you're doing it. Ask me anything, I'll pay you more. What is how's the new police station, by the way? You were in the town on the old one, and you come. I think they built it for you. Is this true?
No, I don't think so. I think so. We're very happy. We are very appreciative to the citizens of Portsmouth for enabling us to be in this facility, because the new facility is great. I mean, coming from That facility was outdated 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And for anybody that's been inside that old facility, it just was not functioning. We were on top of each other. Anytime any sort of incident happened, there wasn't the proper space to do it, to conduct an investigation, to interview witnesses, to interview suspects.
Yep.
It just wasn't working. So to be in this new facility, we are very appreciative. It finally enables us to not have to worry about those dynamics as far as working in our situation, our environment, that's taken care of, and we can focus on other efforts.
Yeah, I just imagine if you have somebody that you're questioning and then somebody else is in the holding cell and then somebody else is trying to take a shower, crisscrossing, you get sort of mixed up. Portsmouth being what it is, as a sort of a through place with highways that zip through, people pass through from north going to Newport and from south going to the Cape and so forth. You must have quite a lot of time devoted to just traffic control.
We do. So we're trying to increase our traffic, because that's a major concern. Especially we saw some accidents that have been sort of high profile and brought more attention to the situation. And so we've tried to greatly increase our traffic enforcement. And we began a campaign back in September of a traffic enforcement where we would just go and we saturated the area. So between August and September, our traffic was up over 270% just on East Main Road, our enforcement. And what we want to get the message across is that we're going to make sure and get our officers out there, because we need to slow traffic down on East Main Road. The speed limit for most of East Main Road is 35. It drops down to 25 on Quaker Hill.
Yep.
But we need to get those speeds down. We need to have, with 35, that becomes the new norm, not where individuals are going 50 plus. So we've saturated the area, and overall our numbers for 2019 as the whole year was up 43% in traffic enforcement. So we've gotten the message out that we want to make sure that officers are out there, and we're doing it. And now we're actually on phase 2. So I don't know if anybody's seen it, but we actually are using what we call static vehicles or ghost vehicles.
I passed one yesterday.
Yep.
I said, oh, what is that car doing there? And then I looked to see if there was a head in it, and there wasn't a head.
There wasn't. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but no matter where I am in the country, when I see the police car up ahead, first thing you're going to do, you're going to check your speed.
Yep.
Am I speeding? Am I
Yep,
going
that's
fast?
true.
I better
That's
control
true.
myself. They might drive up and then they realize that there's nobody sitting in the vehicle, but it served its purpose. It got
Yes.
that individual to
Yes.
watch their speed and control it.
That's
The thing we're going to do now is those vehicles, those ghost vehicles, or static vehicles, are going to be replaced by officers actually in them. So the whole thing is that people, when they're driving through town, you're never going to know. Is it going to be a vehicle that's going to be unattended? Is it going to be a vehicle that's manned by an officer ready to stop you for a traffic violation? So that's kind of our mission, is to get people to realize that it's not a free-for-all in Portsmouth. When you're driving through town, you better keep your speeds down.
it's it's amazing the things that you folks create to maintain that control. I like those little electronic things that say the speed limit is this and you're doing this, you know. Those are very good. And also, I was not a believer in the diet roads, but those do a lot of good, don't they?
We have had success. I have to say, I was here from when I first started. They didn't exist here in Portsmouth. And I know that there was some opposition years ago when it first went on Upper East Main Road, I guess you could say, from Turnpike to Boyd's Lane. And it worked out great. We saw our accidents are down. We don't have as many issues. We don't have speeding. Then we went on and we did Turnpike Avenue. We did a section of West Main Road between Turnpike and the Route 24. And we found that it's a lot easier. It was difficult in those areas, especially coming out of side streets, for motorists to be able to go across 3 or 4 lanes of travel. And we found that in those areas, we were able to do something. And they're actually doing a study right now to see what we can do to enhance East Main Road. We don't know if a road diet is what's gonna work, but They're going to have to look in to see if a road diet can work in certain sections of East Main Road to kind of control the flow. And that's all about what they're doing now. And they're doing a road safety assessment of East Main Road that just started beginning of December. We met with the state. There were also town officials there as well. We had state representatives. We had representatives from the state. And the goal is to see what we can do as a community and together to make East Main Road safer.
Yeah, it's sort of a strange irony that you have this sort of quiet, basically quiet town, and its two main thoroughfares are not their own, but it's shared by all these others who are in a hurry, and they zip and I feel sorry for the people in the Quaker Manor area, and they're trying to cross the street. You know, ridiculous, and somebody's in a hurry to get to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. So that's a big. How is the Rotary thing? How is that? What's the status of that? Is that coming someday before I die?
I think they're still examining that and see what's going to work. But you brought up a good point. Part of this should be is that they're talking about sidewalks and having different other things that we can improve in town, whether it be sidewalks, whether it be better traffic controls. The crosswalks are a major issue where we need to have more visibility. So people approaching on East Main Road can see that there's a crosswalk there. So they've talked about changing to have they call them the dynamic signs, where they're going to light up, where somebody can see when somebody's crossing, and just different things that are going to make it a lot more safer. And we've tried. I mean, we've been doing it for years now. We were probably one of the first in the state under Chief Lee to do the crosswalk. We call them crosswalk stings, but we would have an undercover officer actually in the crosswalk. Some of our younger officers look like students themselves, and they'd be in the crosswalk trying to cross, and we'd have cars up the road, and when they weren't stopping for the pedestrians, they were getting stopped and issued tickets for failing to yield the right-of-way in crosswalks.
Yeah, I read in the paper some sad things. There was a situation, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, and it was a lady coming out of St. Anthony's Church filled with the Holy Spirit, and she got in the crosswalk and got whacked. You know, somebody didn't see it or didn't see the crosswalk, and so those flashes, that might be a good idea. Talk a bit about the police academy. You just know it's the what is the thing where the local citizens can participate?
Sure. So Citizens Police Academy. So
Citizens, that's what it is.
We kind of took a break for a couple of years because we're switching over into the new building, and now that we're back into the new building, we kind of want to resurrect this program. It's a great program. We've had a few classes already that started a few years back. And what it is, it's a 10-week program that we do, and it's a great opportunity for the citizens to kind of see the inner workings of the police department. Besides seeing what goes on and what we do, they also get to know the officers as human beings and individuals. And we're not here. We have a job to do and we have a function to do. And most people, they go through the 10-week program and they're disappointed that it's over, that they want to keep going. And we do a lot of things with them. We besides teaching them about what we do on patrol, but we try to make each class interesting, so they do hands-on activities. So we'll actually use the fire department bays. We'll clear out the fire trucks with thanks of the fire department, and we'll actually do indoor car stops in there where they can actually use blue guns and they can do felony car stops, and we have actors and they do role playing and they do that. We also give them an opportunity. They actually fire a taser. A taser is one of the newer equipment that police officers use. That's a non-lethal option. We allow them to fire a taser. And one of the things we also do is we allow them to fire a handgun. We have a range behind the building, and with proper care and proper guidance, and we have usually 3 officers that are right there within fingertips of the individual, and we're giving them the opportunity. Most people haven't fired a handgun, and we give the person the opportunity to do that if they so choose. We also go through all our training individuals that we do. So we have a DUI training where we'll show them. We have goggles that'll simulate the different levels of intoxication. It might be 0.08, it might be and so far moving up, and they'll wear those goggles and they'll walk the line and do the field sobriety test. And so we have a lot of interesting activities that we do. We'll teach them how to fingerprint. We'll teach them how to lift the prints. We'll teach them how to use some of our crime scene equipment. We've set up fake crime scenes. One year I was in the town hall. We set up a fake crime scene there where there had been a shooting, kind of show them different things so they can get hands-on experience. As in a short period of time, they give them as much hands-on experience of what we do. And most people, I ran the program when I was there as a deputy chief, and everybody would come up and they wanted that. They wanted it to keep going. And what we got out of it was they were impressed. They thought for a small town that they didn't have, they didn't really know what the police department entailed. And you talk about our training and our experience that we go through. Once they went through that program, they realized that, something, your officers have a lot of knowledge, have a lot of training, have a lot of professionalism, and everybody went through that program saw that. And that's one of our goals, is to let people see that we're prepared for anything that happens here in town.
There's an element, a good deal of your position of public relations, of getting the word out as to what folks are getting for their money, in addition
Correct.
to a snappy uniform and a stop or whatever. But there's a lot of it's kind of a homely comparison, Chief. But I think when people used to play football, it was sort of you stand here. When I say hike, crash into one another. And I think the policemen of old, they had a club that said, "You do this, or I want to hit you over the head." But
Yeah, those days are gone, yeah.
But now to be a football player or a policeman entails so much knowledge and judgment.
Correct.
Judgment, how to handle situations. Domestic violence ones must be very, very tricky. And they show up at the door, and you've got an electric situation already, and you've got to go in there and try to...
Those are tough situations because you're entering someone's kingdom, their own home, their own place where they live, and then most of the times they're not happy that we have a job to do. And domestic violence situations and the law, there's zero discretion for the officer. It's not like years ago where the officer could just separate the people and say, hey, why don't you go and stay at a neighbor's house? Why don't you go stay at a friend's house? The law is very specific, and our officers are there to do their job, and a lot of people aren't happy with that, and people are arrested. But we try to go through the training. We try to make it as functional as possible to try to explain the situation to the individuals, and that we're there to do our job, and we have to do it.
Yeah, I am mortified sometimes when I see articles in the paper of policemen trying to do their job, and the crowd around them is booing them and giving them all kinds of harassment as if they're the enemy, and I say, what's the matter with you? You can't be popular and be a good cop, can you?
Correct. I mean, we try, and that's what we're trying to do. And if we get our message across, I think hopefully the community sees the other side of us, and that shows us that we got to work harder, and we got to show our professionalism. We got to show that our officers are well trained. And how we do that is just through our experiences and our encounters. And what we try to get to the officer is that individual that you're speaking to or you're dealing with, they may never have had any interaction with the Portsmouth Police Department in their lifetime. So your interaction to them is going to be meaningful experience, and they're going to judge the entire police department based on your interaction with them. So the message we want to get across to our officers is, you have to show, you have a job to do, and you can't veer from that job, obviously, but it's how you do your job. Is it professional? Is it respect? And that's what we're trying to get across to our officers, and hopefully that message gets out to the community, and hopefully we have the support of the community, and we don't encounter situations that you see in all parts of the country.
Again, as a citizen, and that's all, I sense that the community's proud of its police department, and I sense also that they're pleased with the way the job is being done. There are no...
Well, it's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that. So,
well,
great,
I mean, I'm one person, and I just sense that that I feel safe, and I feel that the people who wear the badge and the uniform and the gun are responsible and doing a good job, and there's no hanky-panky, and and all kinds of things, and I'm very glad about that. I'm glad to be here.
Oh.
I don't think I'm going to move to Cranston. Oh, I'm sorry, that's where you're from. What about a youngster in high school who might want to become a police officer? I notice you have publications in the paper, there are openings and so forth. What kind of trail do they have to go through?
So you should first start off is try to get yourself an education. I know that's not possible for everybody, but the more you know about it, if you can get enrolled in some criminal justice classes, those will help. We're actually in the hiring process right now, so it is a complicated hiring process. It's probably much more than other jobs you would apply for.
I'm sure you're right.
Besides that 5-month academy that's at the end of the process, we start off and you'll have an agility test. So the first part of our process is an agility test. So after the application, I think our applications will, within the next couple weeks, first couple weeks of February, you can find more information on our website. But the process begins with the agility test, and you have to run a mile and a half and so long. You have to do probably 3/4 of the way around a track as a sprint. It's all timed events,
Wow.
push-ups, sit-ups,
Wow.
and there's certain standards that the state sets for every police officer that you have to be able to pass.
Mm-hmm.
If you pass that phase, then you go on to the next phase. The next phase would be a written test. That's an aptitude test for police work. You have to score at least a 70 on that. Then you go on to the next phase, which would be a oral interview with 4 members of our police department. And they're there to gear your common sense, your integrity. They're asking those sort of questions to see what type of individual you would be, and if you'd have the aptitude to be a police officer. Once you pass that, believe it or not, we actually have a swim test. So you have to go through a swim test.
We're on an island.
We're on an
after all,
island. We
Chief.
have 2 boats. So we want to make sure officers know how to swim because, you know, I mean, when the bell rings and we got to go to Prudence Island, we can't be worried that someone doesn't know how to swim, and something we don't want an accident to happen on the boat.
Yep.
So they do a swim test. They have to be able to swim underwater. They have to go a couple hundred yards, being able to swim nonstop. They have to be able to surface dive and pick up a brick or a dummy that they have in the water. And we also have to be able to tread water for 10 minutes. So it's an entailed process, and then once you pass all that, you get ranked on a list based on how you did.
My God.
Then you go for final interviews with the chief, human resources director, and the deputy chief. And then once you're selected, then you start the academy process. Then after the academy, you go through your field training.
Well,
officer.
I'm going to withdraw my application, Chief. I've decided
Sorry to hear that.
I would fail at agility, I'm afraid. That's quite a... The other thing is there any screening done in the process for mental stability?
Sure. So yeah, I didn't include that part, but there's an extensive background check. So our background investigation is very comprehensive and extensive. We're looking at everything in your history. We're looking at mental health. We're looking at criminal history. We're going into your neighborhood. We're knocking on the doors of your neighbors. We're speaking to them if they've had any negative interactions with you. We're checking social media. It's an extensive history. There's a lot of releases that we're signing at former employers. It's an extensive process, and then you also have to do a psychological test by URI and pass that psychological test. And that's probably about an 8-hour test that you're taking at.
No kidding.
Doing
8
that. So
hours?
it's 8 hours. So it's complicated.
But it's thorough, and given you know what we read about in the paper of people who go crazy with guns and anger and so forth, you don't want somebody like that in their uniform enforcing the law who breaks it, you know.
Correct.
So well, I'll tell you, my eyes have been opened wide. So that youngster has got a lot to go through, and then there's the academy for it. You said that's 5 months.
5 months is the police academy.
Is that a sleep-in? Is that a...
No, it's not sleep-in for the
It's a-
municipal side.
Yeah.
They go, it's a day commute, but some of the days they might start off at 7 a.m. They might be there till 7 or 8 p.m. on a couple days a
sure.
week. So it's a long day for them, and then they get up and do it the next day. So
And they go to the camp in South County?
they do. It's Camp Fogarty over in East Greenwich, and
Oh.
then they also have their main classroom is up at CCRI in Lincoln. So
Oh.
if you got officers and living in other parts of the state, I mean, that's a long commute that they're going through. And besides doing all the classroom, you're doing all the PT gear. You're running 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. I mean, it's a lot of work. You're using defensive tactics and use of force. And
Yeah, you have to sort of prove yourself. It reminds me of people who sign up for like an engineering course. The professor will tell them on the first day, where there are 22 in the class, that look at who's next to you, because they won't be here in June. And with the police department, I can imagine that there's a high attrition rate, right?
there is. I think this academy, I just heard, I thought there was, it just started. We have, fortunately, our office is still in there, but they've already lost 6 or 8 candidates, have dropped out or not been able to continue after only 3 weeks of training. So it's an intense course. It's not for everyone, but it is a rewarding job, I think, if you make it through. And I think we have a highly respected, and I think we have a great bunch of officers here in Portsmouth that I'm proud to
Well, it
work with.
reminds me of, quote, basic training, or it's paramilitary, actually, so that people have to meet the physical requirements and then the skill requirements and the intellectual requirements, and it's quite a lot to be called a policeman, and it's not easy. I notice on the list here that your department handles vehicle identification checks. And what is vacant house form? Does that mean?
Sure. So if someone's going away, they're going away for an extended period of time or going away on vacation, they can actually go online on our website, and there's a link that they can fill out that they're going to be away. And we'll actually send an officer out, it might be 2 a.m. or whatever, to check on their house to make certain that all the doors are locked, windows, there's nothing out of place or out of the ordinary. I think that's a great service that we've had here for years. I don't think a lot of people take advantage of it, but
They probably don't know about
they
it.
might not know about it, correct. But if they're away and they fill out a form, and it basically tells us who contact individuals would be, if they're leaving any lights on, what vehicles should be parked in their driveway at any time. So when we go by, if we see something out of the ordinary, we can make sure that we look into that a little bit more. And it's a great service that we have. And
What about the code red? Does everybody know about that?
so we put up on Facebook again this week. We have done at certain events. We try to push it where at Clements Market, where they have the I think it's All Natural Day. We've been down there with a booth and trying to push the code red. But the code red's also a great feature, and where the police department at this time manages that service, and residents can sign up and they'll get alerts for emergencies or critical situations that are occurring. And we try not to use it that frequently, because we don't want people to become desensitized when they see that code red message come up.
Right.
And here in Portsmouth, we want to try to make it that when code red calls, this is something that they should be paying attention to. I think we used it twice so far this year. We had the tornado that came through town, which was a different experience, and we actually had several roads that were blocked, and we were trying to get. And we can limit code red where it's just that neighborhood. So we were able to circle that neighborhood on the computer and just get information out to that neighborhood. We also recently used code red, and we had a bat that tested positive for rabies, and there was a concern that there was a group of individuals that may have had hands-on contact. And the Department of Health issued a warning, but we thought as a community that it's better to be safe than sorry. We want to make certain that that message got out, and that we could, if somebody had contact, we wanted to make sure that they got in touch with the doctor right away.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I'm getting a code red. My cameraman over there is saying, hey, your time is up, buddy. Listen, I want to thank you very much for coming on, and you're always welcome to come on and educate our citizens on the good work that you do.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate you having me.